The video started with a black screen as someone said hi to their loyal viewers. A guy with dark hair pointed to himself and greeted everyone on the AnyRaid channel. It was explained that he's a YouTuber and a B-class hunter named Rick. He smiled big and said today's monster was an AC plus rank, and the video was about fighting an arachne. He pointed at the spiders and said that, as everyone could see, arachnes live in groups like ants and are also arthropods. Rick spread his arms and said these spiders were totally different from regular ground spiders. For example, they don't attack right away and spit webs instead. The guys looked scared at the monsters and shouted that the arachnes don't just spit webs, they shoot them at their enemies. One arachne's leg glowed with energy. Rick held his sword up to protect himself and said things weren't going as planned. He asked to edit it out later, and someone said it was okay. The main guy, who was in charge of filming and editing, named Alex, looked worried and said it was impossible. It was explained that arachnes don't fight directly, but hunt by spitting webs to trap their enemy, then inject poison to slowly kill them. The monster swung its leg, and the main guy thought they wouldn't rush like that. Rick looked mad and called someone a jerk. He held his sword out and told the cameraman they'd talk later, but the cameraman started to argue. Rick raised his arms to defend himself and leaned forward, keeping his head down. The monster was chopped into pieces. Rick walked toward the spider, looking serious as he attacked it. He stood on a pile of dead monsters. He looked angry and asked what was happening, saying someone had told him arachnes spit webs first. Alex held the camera and thought that the monster only pounced like that as a last move, maybe because they were desperate and had nothing to lose. Someone called his name. Rick grabbed his clothes and asked if he was going to keep acting innocent. The guy said sorry to him. The hunter punched him in the stomach and asked if saying sorry would fix everything, yelling that he almost died because of him. The boy was lying in front of him when Rick told him to get better information and insulted him. The main guy, Alex, was sitting behind him when the hunter swore and said he was useless without special skills. Alex stared ahead with blank eyes, thinking about those words and how he wasn't awakened. He sat at a table, thinking about how the ability he got after becoming awakened had no special traits and was useless for hunters since he didn't know how to do anything. The dark-haired boy opened his mouth wide and said this was why he chose to survive, by studying monsters and teaching hunters how to fight them. Alex pointed forward and shouted that the monster was there, naming its weak spot. Rick was cleaning his ear and called him a weirdo, saying he almost died because of this monster and that without him, they'd all be dead. The boys looked scared when someone shouted the hunter's name. The hunter's face was seen in the monster's eyes. The dark-haired boy looked ahead with a smile. The spider's sharp legs stabbed into the ground, and someone screamed that this was an elite monster and they needed to run. The scared boy started running from the terrifying monster. The monster was catching up to Alex. Rick dropped his sword and wondered if he was really going to die like this, realizing that to escape, he needed to use someone as bait. The protagonist turned his head to the side when the hunter decided that he would be it. Rick kicked the cameraman in the face. The young man closed his eyes in pain. The hunter smiled creepily as he said that it was all because of his information, so he should take responsibility. The protagonist placed his hands on the ground as he cursed. The protagonist's pupils narrowed. The monster behind him opened its mouth. Alex turned around as he realized that his own body was not obeying him. Arachne opened her jaws, then the boy assumed that he was going to die. Someone was standing next to the hospital bed when he was addressed. The protagonist looked forward sadly as he answered his mother. The woman stretched her hand up when she said that he must protect Mary. The protagonist's eyes widened as he realized that he could not die there, at least for his little sister. Alex clenched the hilt of the blade. He stood in front of the huge monster as he thought about how he had to survive. The dark-haired boy confidently looked forward as he exclaimed that he would do it despite everything. The protagonist was thrown back by the powerful blow. Then he wondered what was going on. The protagonist looked away worriedly. The blond man in the hood leaned forward. He brought his hand to his face, looking forward determinedly, when Alex wondered who this guy was. There was a bright flash. The blond boy turned around. The guy with tattoos looked forward angrily when he asked where this bastard was hiding. Then the protagonist wondered who the hell he was. His foot left the ground. The stranger swung his arm when he said that the arrogant bastard would stop running there. The tattooed guy opened his mouth wide. The blond man in the red cloak swung his arm, clenching his fist. They were facing each other when the protagonist wondered why they were fighting. There was a powerful explosion. Alex bent his arms in front of him when he asked out loud what was going on, wondering about their strength. The black-nailed feet pressed against the ground. The guy in the red cloak touched the ground with his hand. The stranger smiled creepily when the protagonist thought that these were the ones who made even the arachnids and elite monsters tremble with fear. The blonde looked ahead intently when the protagonist called them unstoppable creatures. The dark and light energies intersected. The orange stream crashed into something. The black energy stream crashed into the light one. The blonde dodged the enemy's fist. Alex opened one eye when he wondered who those two were. The tattooed stranger extended his arms to the sides. He struck his opponent. A blindingly bright flash occurred. A powerful explosion occurred. The bare-chested guy looked angry when he asked the enemy to stop hiding, adding that he was tired of his antics. The cloaked blonde leaned forward as he disagreed, saying that they had a long way to go before it was over. A bright sphere appeared under his palm. The tattooed boy smiled ominously as he asked if he really wanted to go all the way. The opponents sent streams of energy at each other. The opposing auras collided. The white-haired boy looked forward as he exclaimed that at this rate, he wouldn't get out unscathed either. The blonde smirked contentedly as he replied that he didn't care. He turned to the protagonist as he added that it was because he left the possibility open. The protagonist looked surprised as the stranger apologized to him for dragging him into this. The boy with sharp teeth looked forward angrily as he exclaimed that it couldn't be. A sphere formed from the fusion of opposing energies. The ball exploded, leaving smoke. The blonde smiled slightly. His opponent opened his mouth wide. There was a small explosion. Rock fragments flew in all directions. Alex stood with his legs bent. The dark-haired boy looked forward in fear when the stranger said that he would leave it to him. The protagonist crossed his arms in front of him, defending himself. The walls of the cave were shown. Rock fragments were lying near them. The protagonist stood with his fists clenched. Alex looked forward in confusion when he wondered what was going on. He stepped on the phone. The dark-haired boy turned around, looking at the device. He was holding the smartphone in his hand when he asked why it was there. An email icon appeared on the screen when he was asked to confirm the new manager. The phone's display showed words stating that the connection was being checked. After that, a phrase appeared on the screen stating that the manager's position change was complete. Then the protagonist wondered what it was. Bearded men and someone wearing a mask were shown. The protagonist was holding a phone in front of him. He turned his head to the side. A greeting for the manager who had gotten to GodTube appeared on the smartphone screen. The sun was shining on the entrance to the cave. The guys were sitting behind Rick, breathing heavily. The hunter glared when he asked how unlucky he was and what the chances were of encountering an elite monster in AC+ dungeon. His comrades smiled widely when they said that thanks to him, they survived, and that using that fool as bait was a great decision, and that it was expected of a B-rank hunter, adding that he was experienced. Rick looked away, frowning, when he replied that there was a reason his channel's slogan was, "They will raid everything they can," adding that, of course, he was prepared for that. The hunter's pupils narrowed when the protagonist called him a name. A fist came close to his face when he asked the protagonist how he survived. The hunter elbowed his arm. Rick punched Alex in the head when he asked him if he forgot that he was an F-rank. A mark was left on the guy's cheek when the hunter said that he didn't know how he survived, but he was lucky. Rick grinned creepily when he said that he was too lazy to find a new editor. The protagonist looked away when he asked if he was serious and whether he really thought he would continue working for the guy who tried to kill him. The hunter put his elbow on his shoulder when he answered that Alex was the one begging and crying, saying that he needed money for medicine for his sister and that he helped him out of his generosity, so he couldn't do this to him, concluding that he should repay him. Knowing his place, the guy slapped his hand away with his own. The protagonist glared forward as he said the quote about how if someone can't take it, then they shouldn't skip anything, explaining that he had a habit of doing that because he was too cocky and that he didn't know it would help, then asking if he had any idea how many views the video he was leaving him would get if he posted it. Rick closed his eyes and smiled as he answered if the protagonist knew he could just kill him there. Alex glared forward as he answered yes, explaining that he would die, but he would go to jail and lose his hard-earned channel, then suggesting he give it a try. Rick glared menacingly as he turned to the editor, warning him that if this video was posted anywhere, he shouldn't think his sister would be safe. The hunter turned away from the protagonist when he exclaimed that they would find a new editor, and then asked the boys what they were doing, ordering them to grab their things. The protagonist raised his fist to his face when he said that if he tried to hurt his sister, he would do things to him that he could not even imagine. Alex was sitting at the table when he spoke about the channels of the gods. He pressed his finger on the screen when he thought about being a free-to-use platform where anyone can upload their videos, and about how out of the many channels on the site, the most popular ones belong to hunters. The guy imagined a monster and a warrior with a sword when a system notification appeared, saying that the user wanted to try the holy blade he bought from Hephaestus on Lucifer. The huge snake opened its mouth when a notification appeared from a player who said that he was a veteran and that he would speed-run the boss of the world's snake Jormungandr in 12 minutes. The long-haired man was shown in profile when gods from mythology were mentioned. The blonde girl was holding a gun when historical figures, heroes, and legendary figures were mentioned. The dark-haired boy was looking at the phone intently when he assumed that they were running this whole thing. He remembered the blonde man in the trench coat when he wondered who that guy was back then and why he gave him this smartphone. The protagonist placed the device on the table when he thought about how confusing this was. The protagonist rested his head on his hand, thinking about what would happen if this was true and if they really were running channels like YouTube. Alex looked away with a smirk when he said that they would probably start with at least 1 million subscribers. The dark-haired boy reached for the phone when he said that it didn't look that bad, deciding that it was worth a try. The video's intro was of a bearded man when a system notification appeared, telling him that in order to become a member, he could watch and study lectures on S+ insight traits. The protagonist's pupils narrowed when a system notification appeared, telling him that he had subscribed to James's channel. A system window appeared in front of the protagonist, telling him that S+ insight had been obtained. Alex looked ahead carefully as he thought about how S+ was only for classification and how it wasn't a real rank. He imagined dark silhouettes as he thought about the 13 heroes who fought against the Demon Lord and how people assumed that they might have S+ traits. The dark-haired boy looked at the system window, thinking that he had obtained this just by subscribing to the channel and how it couldn't be. He opened his palm in front of him, thinking that if it was true, he should feel something, but he didn't feel any change. The protagonist looked away thoughtfully, thinking that maybe it was because it improved his observation and intelligence, and that if it was, it would be hard to notice the difference immediately. The man in the beast mask smiled when a system notification popped up, saying that he was holding a subscriber event. More specifically, a free personal training session on how to lift the House of Zeus. The protagonist clicked the subscribe button when he said that he would be able to notice the difference after that. Then the system notifications popped up saying that he had subscribed to Hercules' channel and that SS superhuman strength had been obtained. Alex slammed his fist on the table when he asked again in surprise. There was a broken laptop in front of him as he asked how this was possible, wondering if he had actually obtained an SS rank trait. Then a system notification appeared saying that he had used superhuman strength and that his proficiency had increased slightly, and that proficiency in using this trait was 0.1%. The dark-haired boy sat with his arms crossed as he said that he was shocked that he had obtained an SS rank just by signing up. The protagonist clutched his head as he exclaimed that he didn't know or understand, and then asked what this GodTube was. Then a system notification appeared saying that the proficiency in Insight S+ had increased slightly due to hard thinking. The protagonist stared at the phone as he wondered if he needed to reach 100% to fully master this ability, and then thought about getting personal training from Hercules. He clicked on the video of the masked man. People looked shocked. The pillar lifted off the ground. Hercules crouched down, holding it in his hands as he said it was amazing. His legs were enveloped in blue energy as he spoke about this stimulation. The man dug his feet into the ground. Hercules lifted the pillar above him as he shouted that it was too good. Alex looked at his phone in horror as he wondered what it was, exclaiming in surprise. He clicked on the unfollow button as he asked about how he could follow this, adding that he now understood why the man only had one follower and that he would never be able to do so. Then a system notification popped up saying that unfollowing was not possible. Hercules pointed his finger in front of him as he laughed, then turned to the skinny boy, saying that he could come whenever he wanted, but he could not leave whenever he wanted. The dark-haired guy opened his mouth wide and screamed, after which many system notifications appeared stating that unsubscribing was impossible. The protagonist gritted his teeth in anger when he wondered if he could not unsubscribe from him. Then a system window appeared stating that it was impossible to unsubscribe from the channel, after which Hercules said goodbye, saying that they would see each other tomorrow. The young man had a phone in his palm when he asked who was calling him. The protagonist looked at the device in annoyance when he wondered why this bastard was calling him. Rick brought the phone to his ear when he was asked what he wanted, to which he replied that the guy actually picked up, and then said that he thought he had blocked him. Alex looked ahead with an indifferent expression as he repeated that he asked him what he wanted. Hunter smiled wickedly as he suggested that he had nowhere else to go, and the editor asked if he had called him to tease him, and he replied that he just wanted to talk about business. The dark-haired boy held the phone to his head as he mimicked him. Rick looked ahead with a smile as he asked him not to be so rude since they had worked together until recently, and the protagonist told him to tell him what he wanted, explaining that he had no time for idle talk. Hunter glared at his smartphone. He sat with his legs crossed as he said that the SH group had offered to stream together, and then asked if the boy wanted to join them. The protagonist looked surprised as he asked him again. He imagined a multi-story building as it was explained that the group was the #1 financial company in Korea. The dark-haired girl was holding a blade in her hand when the guy remembered that the granddaughter of the owner of the group had recently awakened 2 traits of a hunter in herself. Alex put the phone to his ear when he thought about the fact that he thought they were also into hunting. Rick was sitting in front of the table when he said that he thought they were expanding their business now, so they wanted to see what it was like. The hunter looked away with a smile when he summed up that this was the SH group and then asked what he would say. Then the editor refused him. Then Rick asked if he was serious, adding that in that case he would pay him $50,000 per video. The protagonist looked forward in shock when he asked him again. The guy in the shirt was shown in profile when he asked if he wanted to join now. A smile appeared on the protagonist's face when he answered that he still did not. The hunter looked away with concern when he said that it was 10 times what he usually paid him and that it was good for them, and then asked how much he wanted. Alex looked up with a smirk when he answered 50 million. Rick looked at his phone with fury when he asked him again, and then wondered if he was crazy and if he really thought he was worth that much, and wondered if the guy knew that the SH group was paying him that much. And then a system notification appeared saying that S+ Insight's skill had increased slightly to 0.2%. The dark-haired boy held the phone to his ear when he said that he would try to guess why this group was trying to work with him and not the other ranks of hunters. Rick looked at the phone nervously when he wondered what he would say. The protagonist imagined the man standing with his back turned as he replied that it was obvious, and that his granddaughter had just received 2 S-rank traits, so SH Group Chairman Kurt wasn't going to just sit back and watch as he wanted his granddaughter to learn the basics first. The boy extended his hand towards the goblin as the protagonist wondered what the basics of being a hunter were, and then replied that it was hunting monsters. The bird with glowing eyes stared at the boy as the editor began to talk about the reason why their channel had gained 210,000 subscribers and was able to make money. He imagined Rick pointing at himself with a smile. The boy in the shirt was holding a piece of paper as he summed up that it was all thanks to his unique strategies. Alex pointed to his head as he said that the reason Chairman Kurt approached him wasn't because of Rick, but because of his knowledge. The boy in the shirt looked ahead in fear as he exclaimed that 50 million was still too much. The protagonist looked forward angrily as he asked about the fact that he didn't want it. Rick frowned heavily, chuckling. The protagonist put the phone on the table as he said that if he couldn't get a loan or credit, then he should look for someone else. Alex looked creepy as he smiled. The two were standing next to each other the next day in a B-rank dungeon. The protagonist looked ahead indifferently as he asked about when he was going to transfer the rest of the money. Rick held the device in front of him as he replied that he said he would send it as soon as this was over, and then wondered about when Ashley would arrive. Both the boys turned around. The dark-haired girl looked ahead as she introduced herself, adding that she was the one who should join this raid, and then suggested that they leave right now. The protagonist's pupils narrowed as he thought about the possibility that it was Ashley, and that she was very beautiful. The brunette looked away as Alex thought about how hard it would be to get to her. The boys followed the girl as the boy decided that, as long as he got paid, he would just do his job. An ominous aura surrounded the monster. The hunters looked straight ahead as Ashley said that it was a black troll. Rick smirked, lifting his finger as he exclaimed that she was right and that the monster was classified as AB plus rank monster, and that it might be AB rank monster. But with its regenerative abilities close to immortality, those who did not know how to attack it could lose their lives. Then it was explained that he was telling her how to attack it, just like Alex had told him. The boy imagined the monster waving its paw in front of itself as it spoke of a strategy that everyone knew. The hunter looked at the girl carefully as he said that the black troll's entire body should be torn apart, its heart destroyed, and his head is cut off before it can be regenerated again. Ashley grabbed the hilt of his blade. She quickly ran away from Rick. The brunette looked forward with determination. The girl jumped up, swinging at the monster. She pierced its heart with her sword. Ashley gripped the hilt of the blade. The troll's head was cut off. The brunette landed deftly. Two guys were standing in front of her as she said that it was easy. Rick smiled widely as he said that he didn't think she would understand him so perfectly, with minimal knowledge, adding that it was as expected of an S-rank hunter. Ashley swung her blade as she replied that she was flattered. Dark energy emanated from her sword as the guy thought about it. The girl stood in front of the protagonist, who said that it must be Aurelian's weapon that he had only heard about, and then asked how much it would cost. The brunette looked down at the blade when she guessed about 20 billion. The boys looked shocked when they asked again. Ashley pointed behind her when she said that one black troll was not enough to finish, and then suggested that they move on. The stalactites were dripping water after an hour. The girl stepped in a pool of blood when she said that she thought she understood a little now. The brunette looked away intently when she added that she thought there were no more trolls, and then suggested that they leave it at that. Rick shook her hand when he said that she had done a good job, and she agreed with him, saying that she was leaving. The young man looked down angrily, thinking that he thought that this would be a good opportunity to be acquainted with the Hunters Guild. But he couldn't do anything, and now he would be robbed of 50 million because of that scoundrel Alex. The protagonist looked away in satisfaction when he assumed that he must be thinking about this. Suddenly, the protagonist's pupils narrowed. Ashley raised her head, looking up when she asked about what it was. Then Rick decided that this was his chance, and assumed that judging by its size, it was an elite monster. The dark-haired young man looked up in concern when he realized that it was not an elite monster. A huge monster appeared, grinning, when he realized that it was a boss monster. The monster opened its mouth wide. It swung its paw. The girl looked forward tensely. She held out her blade in front of her, defending herself. Rick looked away in fear. The boys began to run away, cursing. The monster's eyes glowed yellow. It raised its limb up, then the brunette began to fall. Rocks flew in different directions. The guys were attacked in the back. Rick, frowning, looked ahead. He ran, bending his arms, when he thought that it did not matter that the girl was from the SH group and that he had to escape from this place. The hunter looked ahead in fear, thinking only about escape and that he could not die. Rick's pupils narrowed greatly when he realized that he had to quickly escape from this place. The boss monster swung its fist at him. The guy looked ahead in horror when he said that he was dead. A girl appeared in front of him, taking the blow on herself. The monster slammed its fist into the ground. Ashley flew back from the force of the blow. The brunette fell on the rocks. The monster swung its hand, trying to attack the girl. Ashley looked away when she realized that she had to dodge. The brunette jumped onto the monster's paw. She was near its head. Ashley struck it several times with her sword. The monster's gaze darted to the side. The girl looked ahead tensely. His fist appeared in front of her. The blow was delivered. Something bounced off the ground several times. The boss's huge fist rushed forward. The monster swung its limb, attacking. The brunette held the blade with both hands, defending herself. The protagonist looked up attentively when he realized that they could not win. There was a grimace of horror on his face when he thought that even if it was Ashley, it didn't matter that she was a hunter with 2 S-rank traits. She was just a newbie who lacked experience right now. The monster struck the ground. The monster opened its mouth wide when the protagonist decided that they could not win. In front of him, the monster was beating the girl when he realized that the only choice he could make was to leave her and run. Alex looked ahead with regret as he added that otherwise he would die. The dark-haired boy was shown in profile as he thought about how he could believe in the superpower of the SS rank on Gatube and how he didn't know exactly what rank it was. Someone ran past him. The protagonist looked after Rick. The protagonist looked shocked. He remembered the smiling boy who said that it was all because of his unverified information. The boy imagined himself putting his hands on the ground as he added that that's why he had to take responsibility. Alex looked straight ahead with fear. The brunette gritted her teeth while holding the blade. Sweat appeared on the boy's face as he thought about how they couldn't win. The back of his head was shown as the boy thought about running many times. The protagonist rushed forward, realizing that he had to run or he would die there. The protagonist opened his mouth wide and screamed loudly. Alex looked ahead with determination as he thought about money and prestige and how those things were useless when a person was dying. The monster swung its jaws open. Ashley gritted her teeth, looking away. The protagonist clenched his fist and screamed as he realized that if he left her there and ran away, he would be no different from that bastard Rick, who abandoned him and ran away. The opponent's fist touched. The monster extended its limb to the side. The brunette looked up attentively when she realized that the guy had blocked his fist. Ashley looked at the boy, wondering who he was. A blue aura appeared above the protagonist. The protagonist's mouth opened slightly. He carefully looked at his hand. The boss monster struck the roof of the cave. His powerful fist rushed forward. Alex took the blow, standing sideways. The monster was in front of the guy. The monster frowned, looking ahead. The protagonist looked away as he exclaimed that it needed to be done now. The brunette looked forward with determination. She was hovering in the air in front of the monster. Sweat appeared on the monster's face. The girl plunged a blade into its body. She kicked it with her foot. Ashley moved, deftly spinning in the air. The monster looked at the brunette with fury. The girl decapitated the monster. The monster's body was in front of the boys. The protagonist looked forward carefully as he assumed that it was over, and then realized that something was wrong by using the Insight S+ trait. The decapitated body was shown as the boy thought about the boss species being a species that undergoes double transformation, so the physical transformation will occur naturally. The monster's head began to grow back as the boy advised to be careful. The monster grabbed Ashley. Alex looked worriedly at the girl, who screamed loudly when he thought that it was all over if she died, but there was nothing he could do. The monster's pupils narrowed greatly. The protagonist grabbed his finger with both hands, deciding that if all the traits he got from Gatub were real, and that even if they were weak now, and if all of them were his strength, then he could buy some time. The brunette opened one eye when she asked the guy to run from there. The protagonist opened his mouth wide when he told her to aim for the heart. Ashley braced her hands on the monster's flesh. The girl fell from the monster's paw onto the ground. The brunette looked ahead with determination when she answered that she understood. The monster was in front of Ashley. Alex looked ahead with a frown when he asked her to just trust him and attack. The monster lowered its furious gaze. Its bright pupils suddenly narrowed. The guy held the monster by its fingers. The protagonist looked ahead with a smile. The brunette walked towards the boss monster. The girl cut its limb with a blade while it screamed. Ashley's blue eyes flashed. The brunette plunged the sword into the monster's heart. The protagonist looked up, thinking that he could hold out for another half a second, no more, and that there was no time to explain how to attack the ogre. Alex opened his mouth, looking forward as he exclaimed that this monster had two hearts. The girl looked back in surprise as she asked again. The ogre waved its paw in front of her as the guy thought about how sure she would figure it out with her sixth sense. Ashley looked ahead confidently. The brunette swung the blade at the monster as the protagonist decided that she should understand. The girl held the sword in front of her. She plunged it into the monster's body. The guy's foot left the ground as he exclaimed that he would do it now. The protagonist was enveloped in blue energy. The protagonist opened his mouth wide as he asked the enemy to just stop and die already. Then a system notification appeared that the skill had increased slightly. The boy hung in air in front of the giant. Alex's fist was reflected in the monster's eyes. There was a bright flash. The protagonist put his hand in front of him. Ashley put her hand to her forehead when she thought about how they won. Blood was running down the protagonist's face when he was called out. He took a step forward. Alex was lying at the girl's feet, who wondered who he was. A gray ceiling was shown. There was a TV on the wall when the boy assumed it was a hospital. The protagonist looked ahead carefully when someone asked him for forgiveness. The brunette sat up straight when he addressed her. The protagonist looked confused when he asked what she was doing there. Ashley pointed to the floor and wondered if he couldn't see it, then explained that it was because she had brought him to the hospital because he was badly hurt, and all his muscles were torn and his ribs were broken. The girl was sitting in front of the boy when she asked how he was feeling. Then he thought that she was too close. Alex looked at the brunette in confusion. She touched his head. They were sitting opposite each other. Ashley's eyes widened when she said that she thought he had a fever. The dark-haired boy smiled at her and told her his name when she reminded him that they hadn't even introduced themselves, then asked about his name. The protagonist, looking ahead intently, wondered if she didn't know his name, since she should have learned his personal information when he was admitted to this hospital room. The girl looked away when she explained that she wanted to hear it herself. The protagonist looked serious as he thought about whether she could read his mind, and that he heard her S-class trait was the sixth sense, and that it was unique for a reason. Ashley turned her head to the side as she assumed that he must be out of his mind to have just woken up, but she wanted to propose to him. Sweat appeared on Alex's face as he asked her again, to which she replied in the affirmative. The brunette was sitting in front of him as she asked him if he wanted to join her team. The dark-haired youth looked confused as he asked the girl, assuming that it was because he had fought the ogre. The protagonist smiled nervously and asked again when he was asked what he thought about a yearly salary of 1 billion won. The protagonist looked ahead in surprise when he was told that they would also split the spoils of the monsters equally, and the young man thought it was crazy that he was offered a 1 billion-a-year salary and the spoils of the monsters. Alex sat in front of the girl, who added that she had heard that his younger sister was suffering from a blood disease, and then inquired about the fact that she was hospitalized in their hospital, explaining that they would take care of the expenses so he would not have to pay. He looked ahead intently when he asked what he had done to deserve such a price. The protagonist was in front of Ashley, who politely asked him to develop a strategy for all the monsters she would hunt in the future. The brunette looked confidently ahead when she finished speaking.